Hello and welcome to Help Nobody Told Me. We're so glad you joined us today. I am Shannon Johnson, a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway, and joining me today is our friend and partner, Jordan Kagan, the man of silver.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you all for joining us today for another episode of Help Nobody Told Me. We have an amazing guest today. You can look at her and see the white jacket and know she wasn't cooking right before she came here. But we do have a chef today, Chef Julie.ratowitz, and she has a company called Chefs for Seniors. She's based in North Shore, Chicago, the suburbs. But I thought, when I first met her in the last couple months, I really thought this is such a brilliant concept. And so that's why I invited you on, because I just think it's so many factors involved in your business.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit how you got into this.
Sure.
I'm guessing you're a real chef.
So that's the jacket says it all.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Do you want the whole background story?
You can go a minute.
Sure. Okay, so I am the product of a General Mills engineer, the guy who designed the how things get made and created. So basically he was given like a recipe and a photo and told to get this on the shelf, get this in the kitchen. And the other side is my mom, who cooked through all the Julia Child books, which had been a gift from one of her aunts.
Oh, wow.
And so when my brother and I were little kids, we thought that everybody had a mirror hanging from the ceiling in their kitchen because my mom taught cooking classes in the house. And then that kind of went into, she taught for the Park District, and then people started to approach her and say, hey, Ruth, we've got like 10 people coming for dinner. Any chance you'd come over and do the cooking for us? And so it kind of launched her into this catering gig thing. And I'm the oldest of the kids and a girl. And so I guess,
sous chef.
So I was her sous chef from a very young age, like when I was in home ec in junior high. She paid me $5 an apron, and I made them in home ec. And I still have some that say, you could buy these little labels that said "handmade by Julie." So I love it.
That's funny.
So that's how I kind of got into it, and I was always cooking or baking or something. My mom went on to go to culinary school, owned a restaurant in south suburbs. I grew up in the far south suburbs, and yeah.
So at some point you transitioned from private chef to launching your company.
Yeah. Yes. I still do private chef for people because I have a lot of clients, right? So this was just a way to kind of pull in and get to cook more because I could be cooking.
So where did this concept come from? What made you think that this was an avenue?
So I have a really good friend. Can I say her name? Her name is Mary Kay Gill. She lived in Deerfield. Which is how I met her, because we both belong to a culinary organization called La Dame d'Escoffier, a Chicago chapter. And Mary Kay moved from Deerfield to Hilton Head. And she called me last year in late April, maybe early May, and said, Julie, one of my chefs is going out of town for 3 weeks. Any chance you'd be interested in coming to Hilton Head? You can stay with me. I'll give you one of my cars. I'll give you all the equipment, and you can cook and make money. And I was like, wait a minute.
Hilton Head for 3 weeks.
And and all I have to do is buy the plane ticket, right? Of course, I went. So I was like, okay, sure. And I did, and it was like great. And she kept talking to me about Chefs for Seniors, and we went through she showed me everything that they do and all the stuff on the computer. It's just a very organized, easy way to launch a business and to be able to do something that you love, which is cooking for people.
Is this a franchise?
It's a franchise. So I bought a franchise, yes.
Got it.
Yes.
And where's the corporate headquarters?
Madison, Wisconsin.
So it's a local Midwest company.
Yeah. Local, but they have, so the company's been around for about 13, 14 years, I think. I might be off by a year, but it was launched. It's great. That is a great story too. So the man, it's a husband, so it's a father-son business, but the whole family works there. Nathan's wife, I just talked to her today to talk about being on podcasts and things like that. Barrett, who's the father, his wife does chefs for people. But basically it came about, Barrett owned a restaurant, and Nathan was at University of Wisconsin-Madison getting his MBA, and had to do a project, come up with a business model. And so he wrote this whole thing basically on chefs for seniors. His father, who'd owned a restaurant and was the chef at the restaurant, would pack up food for seniors to take home with them because he knew that they didn't have food at the house or didn't have what they needed. And so when Nathan came up with the concept, which he did very well in school with, and then he graduated, Barrett kind of said, we should actually do this because it's a really good idea.
Love it.
Yeah, and luckily they did, because I had been romanced. I drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak. And I came back, and Mary Kay had said to me, Julie, this is like your mission. My friend Mary Kay is a very nice Catholic woman, and so she's like, this would be your mission. And I said, well, for me, this would be my mitzvah. But yes.
And for those that don't know what a mitzvah is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, a mitzvah is like your good deed or your mission. Your mission of goodness.
So, the ability of doing good deeds, helping others, and making a living at it. It's a pretty good feeling.
It's a great feeling. Plus, I get to just cook. And seriously, I could be. It's always going in my head. Like, I'm sitting in the car thinking about stuff, or I see something on TV and I'm like, oh, that might be interesting to tweak it like this or like that. Recently, I started infusing sugar because I bought culinary lavender, so edible lavender, because I wanted to make London fog cookies, which are really good. And I thought I was buying a small thing of lavender, but clearly I have no sense of what 5 pounds of lavender looks like. So I got this giant thing of lavender, which is awesome. So I just blended it with a lot of sugar, and now I've got lavender sugar that I can bake with. So and I started doing that. I now have rose sugar, and I have hibiscus sugar, and I have all these different. So
some of the best things happen by accident.
So true. So true.
Like Post-it notes.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about seniors and aging and food and how important the nutrition piece is.
Sure.
Because that's a huge thing. Sometimes you get older and maybe it's just a couple or even a single person and they're not cooking anymore, and they're eating processed food, they're eating very little, or they're forgetting to eat, and
once
just
a day.
myriad of things.
Yep. Cans of soup or
cans of salt.
So cans of salt.
A pint of ice cream.
So why is nutrition so critical?
So, the thing about nutrition is it's what truly fuels us. It's not it is the calories, don't get me wrong, but the things that we get out of the vegetables we eat or the protein, the meat we eat, those are the real things. Like, the carbs are really just sort of the gasoline for the car, but it's all the other stuff that you need to keep you lively and happy and healthy and good. And they really, the conversation about drinking enough water and it makes your skin beautiful, eating enough carrots so that your eyes are beautiful, all that stuff, things with vitamin E, leafy green vegetables, all that stuff has things in it that just make us healthier, give us energy, keep our minds going. When you're someone, as we get older and we're starting to forget things, if you can get more of that, like vitamin D, vitamin K, vitamin alphabet, it's all good.
All the stuff.
All the different colors at a meal to have a balanced meal.
Yes, and if you want something purple, one of my favorite things I've been making for people is a pistachio crusted salmon with a really beautiful piece of salmon, so it's bright reddish pink. And then oven roasted Brussels sprouts, so that gets you the green, and then mashed Peruvian potatoes, which are purple. And it's delicious and beautiful.
Hungry now. I was already hungry, but now I'm really hungry.
Yeah, so that's a really good one. That's the purple.
So a big part of this is that, like we said, seniors struggle with the meal planning and the grocery shopping, and what are the barriers that you see in that? Why? What's the breakdown?
So, the breakdown is that there is, it's the mental stability, the ability to communicate and think and do, the being really lethargic, being unable to sleep, being just confused, and some of these things, I'm not saying that, eating perfectly healthy is going to make none of that happen, but the eating well, those are contributing things, and that's the energy and the way we kind of keep ourselves going.
What are signs that family members can see that their loved one isn't eating well at home?
Their refrigerator is always empty. They're ordering delivery frequently, right? So that, delivery frequently, sometimes it can be healthy, but it's also incredibly expensive, right?
Yes.
If they're just, if you say, what'd you have for dinner, what'd you have for lunch, and it's always the same response, they're just, not much is going on. I had a bologna sandwich, or I had a whatever sandwich. Tuna salad sandwich, or, yeah.
Oh.
They're not drinking milk. My father drinks milk with orange juice, so whatever, but he drinks 4 glasses of milk a day.
Oh, well,
he's a healthier guy.
More power to him.
Yeah.
So
we've talked about the challenges and that piece. Can you give us an example of how your services, you saw them turn things around for a client?
Sure. I have this gentleman I've been cooking for every 2 weeks since the beginning of the year, and first of all, he's adorable. And he just in the beginning, he kind of stayed in his room and was on the phone doing work, whatever the work is, because he's going to be 90. And more and more, he comes into the kitchen and we just start having conversations. We talk about the food that I've made and left for him. He tells me exactly what he likes and what he doesn't like.
So he lives by...
His daughter checks in with him and is there a lot, but he really lives by himself.
So you sound like when you're there, you are a social companion.
Yes.
And there's some camaraderie.
Yes.
Where someone that is single or a widow or a widower.
Yes.
And living by themselves.
Yeah.
Now they have someone to hang out with for a couple of hours.
Yeah, and I really enjoy it. Another part of me is I really enjoy being around people, and I like hearing stories. I'm always good for someone to tell me stories, right? And so this gentleman, George, I said to him, George, tell me what was your favorite menu? What is your favorite thing that your mom made for you as a kid? And he was like, oh, and he just started talking about food, and he started talking about what she made. And it wasn't, nothing fancy, crazy, over the top, but, like simple roasted meats and roasted potatoes. But he would talk about the roasted potatoes as being she would cut them about, this big. And I don't know what she did to them, but they were really crunchy on the outside and really soft on the inside. And so I talked with his daughter about, I would like to see if I can figure out and make George his mom meal. And so I've been trying to do that. I've got the potatoes down, it's just good. But the potatoes have taken a lot of butter because, back in that day, no one really used a lot of olive oil. Things butter or, forgive me, lard, because they're from Southern Illinois.
Yeah. Lard.
But, so that's, I really enjoy hearing people's stories.
I love it.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to hire you
as
a chef for seniors, what would that look like? What does that process look like?
So basically, people find me on Google, they find me on Facebook, they find me on LinkedIn. I'm not really good on the Instagram situation. But then they usually somehow get to the website, so that would be chefsforseniors.com. The general website, when you get in there, it has you put in your zip code or look for your state, and when you put that in, it'll give you the Chef for Seniors franchise or that's closest to you.
Okay.
Sometimes, I get people that are.
What if I want to go directly to you?
If you want to go directly to me, you can email me directly.
And we'll have your contact.
We'll have all our contact.
But if you go through the website and you get to me, it'll have you fill out a form, an online form, and that will come right to me.
So then what happens?
Then
how do we?
When I'm staying on top of things, I will get that inquiry, and I usually send a text, and I have sort of my little blurby thing that I send out. Hey, Jordan, this is Julie.ratowitz, Chefs for Seniors, a modern approach to good old-fashioned cooking. I'd love to have a conversation with you to see how I can make your meals delicious. And that's usually what I send off.
I'm hooked.
Yeah, so that's what I send off. And, it's less often that people respond to that, not because sometimes people are just fishing, they just want to kind of get a sense of things, which is fine. Usually if someone asks me some questions or says I'm just fishing, I always ask them to please keep my information. You never know what you might need.
Right. Then there's always the lovely seniors.
Once you actually start communicating with someone, then do you talk about what they love, what their dietary
Yes,
I assume.
So I usually have a phone call. There's a phone call as my first kind of step after that. Once we've connected with the query, and I just like to get sort of the basics. Am I cooking for you, or am I cooking for your grandparents, or your parents, or your whomever it might be? Because frequently I also get reach outs from caregivers.
The kids, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
And then once that sort of basic call happens, I always ask if I can schedule a site visit, because it's important to me that, one, I get to see their kitchen, because I just want to have a sense of what I'm walking into, and I like to do sort of an inventory on their pantry, because I like to make use of what they already have. I don't need to buy more breadcrumbs if they already have breadcrumbs, or pasta if they already have pasta. And then the other thing that I think is very important is that when you show up at a home of a senior, that they know who you are. And so I feel like a site visit is kind of a good introductory way to meet me and see my face, so that when I come to your house the first time with all my stuff, you already know who I am. Because I just, I think it makes people a little more at ease.
Of course.
Yeah.
So you find out a little bit about them, about their likes. Because
I always ask. I
hate Brussels sprouts. Then you're not going to make Brussels sprouts.
That's right. I usually
or you're going to sneak them in.
I usually ask, what do you not like? Because it's easier to ask what someone doesn't like, because that they'll know, than to say, what do you like? Because how many times someone is going to say potatoes, how often are they going to say, I like purple Peruvian potatoes? But if they say potatoes and I said, are you open to all kinds of things? Now I have kind of an in, and I can have another conversation in more detail about ingredients.
Is it easy for you to work around food allergies?
Definitely, yeah. Yes, definitely. And that's another big part, especially with seniors. Low sodium, low carb, low fat, low sugar, all kinds of things. No shellfish, no nuts, no berries, no
gluten.
Yes, gluten.
Specifically for whomever you're working with.
Whomever.
So for really different specific.
But if I want gluten, I can have all the gluten I want.
Absolutely. And I'll probably sneak and bring you baked goods, because I do that with George all the time. I'm like, oh George, I had extras. I made these and I had extras.
So you can work around people's health issues.
For sure, definitely. And I always tell people, as you're looking at recipes, don't worry about whether it fits within what you can and can't, or what you want and don't want. Because once I have that sense, I can convert recipes, and I can make. There's always
you can make it low sodium or low sugar.
There's low.
That's your
no
job,
dairy,
not mine.
right? Yeah, and I'm good at that. I'm pretty good at that. So the ability to make things a lot of different ways.
I really love cheesecake, but I'm diabetic. How can you make it for me?
There's lots of ways to do it.
That's your job.
Yeah, lots of ways to do it.
Yeah. What tips do you have for adult children that are trying to make sure their parents are eating well?
Yeah. It's hard, and I'm also sort of in that situation because I have an 84-year-old father, right? And he is a crankosaurus at times.
I hope, Dad, you're not listening.
My father. So he, for him, his diet these days, he likes to eat yogurt that he keeps in the freezer. And I'm like, Dad, if you want frozen yogurt, I'll buy you frozen yogurt. You don't have to. So with him, I've tried to introduce soups and things that he likes. We talk a lot about things that my mom used to make, and I'll bring him things and keep them in the freezer. I call his stuff homemade TV dinners. But, that's kind of for him. And I think for adult children, the way around it is to find sort of a middle ground. My sister and I were just talking about my dad, and she said, he's kind of at the point where we should probably be treating him like a teenager, right? Because they say, I always think that, like, my dad and my 8-year-old nephew are just the same person, right? But truthfully, my dad is,
There's a saying often that it goes from them pushing us when we are born to us pushing them later in life.
Yeah.
But I think with the same sense of that, there's a sense of respect as well.
For sure.
It saddens me sometimes that we lose a bit of that in America.
Absolutely. And
1,000%.
I do think that the dignity thing is really important to me, because whomever they are, they've lived this whole life, they've done all these things, they're really...
Right.
And I don't know anything about them. So, it's like all I want to do is find out more about them. So I know, because once you really have a sense of things, and I've learned some really interesting things about clients, like... one of my clients I recently found out owns the gas station across the street from where I live. And I was like, really?
Wait, you what?
I was like, can I get a discount because you think I'm great? That's exactly what he said. Yeah. So, it's just like interesting things. Like, but you don't know that until you really start to talk to people.
Right.
And they open up.
So how can families work together with a service like yours to support their loved ones?
So sometimes it depends on the loved one that we're taking care of, right?
How cooperative are they?
How cooperative they are, how able they are to, get online. I always bring a hard copy of the menus that are listed online, because not everyone's good on the computer. But I always want to know, who am I communicating with more? Am I communicating with that loved one or caregiver, or am I communicating directly with the individual I'm feeding? Or how would you like it to be, and how would they like it to be? The same thing with the invoicing and the billing, because sometimes I may be communicating with the individual about what they want to eat, but I'm billing the
kids or the caregiver. Yes.
So, there's that part of it too.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just being open to figuring out how those things are and setting up some parameters.
Yeah. What do you love most about what you do? I see the smile, I see your glowing, so I know you love it.
I do love it.
But what do you really love the most?
I love the idea of feeding people and letting them have what I consider to be extraordinarily delicious foods. And mostly they agree with that. That is the most important thing, and to see people happy. And I think I've always felt like food is something that we all need, right? But depending on how it's presented and what it is, it can make you happy. Eating, and I talk about, like, when I'm cooking for people, that it takes a few times before I really get a sense of their palate, because cooking for people is an incredibly intimate experience, right? Because everybody tastes things differently, and eating is a full sensory experience, right? You just think about all of those 5 senses that you're using, and so it's like a puzzle for me to figure it out, and I really like that a lot.
So when you, just out of curiosity, when you go into someone's home, you said you go every 2 weeks, I think, about one client.
Yeah.
But do you cook multiple meals?
Yes.
You cook it there in their home?
Yes.
Okay. How does that?
So the basic thing is, folks will go to the website and they can look at menus that are available, and they'll pick four things, and I will do the grocery shopping and show up with my big purple Hulken bag with all my pots and pans and stuff and the groceries. Okay. And I will, in about 2 to 3 hours, come up with 16 meals.
Okay.
4 of each that they select.
Got it.
Yeah.
So that gives them a couple weeks worth
It can. It depends. If it's 1 or 2 people, it really depends.
Right. For one person, yeah.
Right. I have some folks that I really just cook once a month for because they're very social and they just want things to eat when they're home doing nothing, or on like Sundays when they're staying in their jammies all day. They just whatever. So, but yeah.
So that helps me understand.
Yeah. Yeah, but 16 meals is definitely a 2-week supply plus a little extra.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it sounds like by customizing the meals, that's what might set you apart from meals that you order online or meal kits or things like that.
Right.
It's much more personal,
Yes.
the food they're getting. Plus, they get you and they can schmooze and socialize with you.
That's right. And then, once I'm around enough and I kind of get a good sense of them, I start to go off script and I'll say, I just made this really good Tuscan salmon with cannellini beans, butternut squash, and roasted tomatoes, and I think you would really like that.
She's killing me. Stop. I told you I'm hungry.
Yeah, so I can, but that's not necessarily something that's in the
menu, right?
Yeah, in Chef's for Seniors cookbook. But once you really get to know people, I'm able to play around with that. George, my good friend George, I brought him some different polentas that I had. Okay, so they were they're like ancient corns. So one is purple, one is blue, one is pink. And he was like, wait, I can eat that? It was like... And I said, yes, and it's organic.
Rainbow into our meal.
That's right. And it was all organic, which is important. His daughter, everything with George is organic, so...
Okay. So... just like bringing caretakers into the home, oftentimes people are very resistant to someone coming into your kitchen. Like, this is my kitchen.
Yes.
I don't know about another chef being in my kitchen.
Yes.
How do you finesse that? What do we need to know about that?
So, I'm always open to anyone sitting in the kitchen staring at me while I'm cooking, because I don't care. It doesn't bother me. And I actually kind of like it, because then I can come around with my plastic spoons and say, try this and make sure it hits you right. Does this have enough salt in it? Does this have, because I tend to be a light salt hand in general.
Okay.
So sometimes, but seniors, the tendency with seniors is that they need things more heavily seasoned, because you start to kind of lose that taste ability to taste.
Sure.
So, having people being in the kitchen with me is always great. Having them show me around the kitchen and show me where everything is, even though I'm not going to use any of their pots and pans. They, show me everything. Show me, how do you do this? Is it okay if I reorganize in your refrigerator a little bit so I have like space like this?
Okay.
So that it's really... they can make the decision. Yeah, and it's their it's their house, right?
A little bit, maybe.
Of course,
get in there and work with them a little bit if they're that kind of a person.
Sure, glad to have it. Yeah.
Okay, that makes it fun, and they feel involved.
Yeah. I have one woman who asked if she could cook with me, because she didn't want to. She wants me to come and do all the cooking, but she's really curious about how I get that much done in 2 to 3 hours. So I was like, sure. Now I'll get done in an hour and a half. Because she's in there doing half of it. Didn't work.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that like having your kids in the kitchen? I don't know.
Yeah, kids in the kitchen. Yeah, my 8-year-old nephew gets a lot of kitchen tasks when he's in the kitchen. So.
How about someone's in the hospital, they're sick, they're coming home.
Yeah.
They might not want you forever, but they really need meal help when they come home.
For sure.
Is that something you would do there at your kitchen or either?
No. So my kitchen, in order to cook and bring to people, you have to have a commercial kitchen, by law. And I don't have a commercial kitchen. So that's why, cooking in people's homes is the way to go.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Great. So, awesome information.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know this was a thing. And I'm so glad that Jordan invited you here today.
Yeah, me too.
So
this has
we
been
know
fun.
you're going to call Julie. You're going to find out about Chefs for Seniors in the North Chicago area, and she can come give you a little boost in your meal planning and help you out there and make sure it's nutritional and delicious. And those
Absolutely.
2 words can go hand in hand, believe it or not. So thanks for joining us today on Help Nobody Told Me. Tune in next week and like and subscribe.